how the restaurant is doing now. I know it took on the kitchen, and you said about 3 to 4 inches of water.
Yeah, we actually got pretty lucky. 3 to 4 inches of water we can manage. When the water levels go higher than the table, it just comes in from the sewer, pretty much. It comes in from the pipes. And back in 2017, we had a scenario where there was almost a foot of water in the restaurant, and then you're in danger of losing all the equipment you have in there. People who work here are in danger of losing their cars, and then you really start running into problems.
Yeah. And we saw you rush over here to make sure that everything was okay. Walk me through what you did after you made sure that the restaurant was A-okay and everybody inside was all right.
Yeah, it's funny because you rush over here, but there's only so much you can do. You know, you're just really making sure that there's no moves you can make. If the water level had been higher, we would be pushing equipment from the kitchen into the dining room. But since everything was okay, we just checked on the crew and made sure that everyone was in good spirits, and I sat here and waited with them until the water went down.
Went across the street to the bar and picked up a few cold beverages to make sure that they were doing all right?
Yeah, we had to keep the morale high, but don't worry, everyone was clocked out.
Good deal. Well, I'm so glad to hear that things are okay. That is kind of the status of things here in Mid-City. Great to see that this water is receding, because at one point where we're standing, I mean, it was almost all the way up here. You can kind of see the debris and some of the leaves from where it was.
Yeah, that dog bowl right behind us was completely submerged in water, and there's just only so much you can do at that point. You can't really push it back out. But yeah, pumps were working, so that was great. It was just kind of a back and forth where the rain would slow down, and then the water would go down a little bit, and then rain would come back up, and the water would come back. So luckily, everything was moving today.
All right, well, reporting live in Mid-City, Lily Cummings, Eyewitness News. Katie, I'll send it back to you.
Lily, I hate to hear that his business flooded yet again. Of course, we know that from that 2017 flood, it launched our down the drain investigation, and that's when we really started looking at the drainage issues with the pumps and the power and all of those things in detail, so that we could tell everyone out there what we can expect on days like today. Now, we spend days, weeks preparing for hurricane season, for tropical events, but an afternoon rainstorm like this one can cause just as much damage. And that's what we saw, at least for that business owner. Hopefully not many more today. Now, we do want to go back over to Chris Franklin, who is standing by, our chief meteorologist, with the latest on how much rain we got and how fast and what we can expect out there right now. Chris?
Things are settling down, so that is a good thing. We're kind of done with the rainfall, and not everybody across our region even saw any rainfall, let alone anything particularly heavy. Let's go back in time to 9 a.m. Had a line of showers, not quite over Slidell just yet. It was more of just a moderate, heavy, much needed rain right along the state line. Then as we continued through the morning, started to see the intensity of the rainfall, notice kind of building in from the Gulf over Slidell, and it just stayed there. And we all then started to kind of see this boundary setting up that extended from Slidell across almost all of Orleans Parish onto the Jefferson Parish, and even into the West Bank toward Destrehan. Those storms then just built over the same areas. They did not move. That was the boundary we were talking about. It looked like maybe the clearing was just to the west or just to the east from the West Bank and would start to move, but no, it just continued to fire up along this boundary, almost like a little frontal system, and that's where the rainfall continued, with the intensity over the city not letting up for several hours. Then finally, after about 3 to just in the last half hour or so, we finally started to see the intensity of that rainfall let up. Now we've got more of a boundary that is set up over the Atchafalaya Basin out to our west, and that is now kind of the focus for the National Weather Service office, covering the entirety of southeast Louisiana. As far as the rainfall goes, now updating it, just some light rain across parts of Metairie and Old Jefferson. Still have some showers onto the West Bank, but even these are not nearly as intense as what we had earlier. Still have a few showers on the West Bank, and if these are able to hold together, could continue northward, but it looks like those are weakening, so I don't think we're going to see much of that rainfall continue into the city. Here are the official rainfall totals from all of our observing stations. Now, obviously, you're going to have heavier totals in between these sites. Over 2.5 inches of rainfall at Lakefront. Officially at Kenner, which is our kind of climate gauge for the region, only 0.4 of an inch. But check out Slidell, almost 5 inches of rainfall. And at the pumping stations in the city now, we can confirm over 7 inches at City Park. Our radar radar is able to estimate rainfall accumulation, not officially, but it is able to kind of look at the rainfall rates and then kind of use an algorithm to figure out how much rain has fallen in an area. And there was a bullseye right around the lakefront north of City Park, and we can confirm that 6 to 7 inch estimate is over 7 inches of rainfall. Mid-City over 5.5 inches, Lakeview 5.3, over almost 4.25 inches at Gentilly, and Broadmoor at almost 4 inches of rainfall. Thankfully, our computer models indicating what rain we still have around will be ending in the next couple of hours. May still be an issue out to our west, but we will start drying out through the rest of the evening and into the night, and far less rainfall in the coming days.
All right, thank you, Chris. Sharice Gibson joining me now in the studio with the latest on this rain event. We have seen a significant amount of rain all over the city, up to 7 inches in places.
Yeah, I've gotten video from for some viewers who have been watching out for the flooded roadways. Obviously, you can park your cars up on the neutral ground right now. That's what they do whenever it does rain heavily. But a lot of viewers have been sending me videos and pictures in of some of those roadways and wondering and questioning the thing that we always question here on Eyewitness News.
Yep.
Anytime it starts to flood or anytime we have any situations where it's rising water, are those pumps working? And so far we believe that they are, if I'm not mistaken.
We have heard from the Sewage and Water Board that the pumps are working in most places except for the area underneath I-10. And one of the spots that tends to flood chronically is what you're looking at right now on your screen. That is the Canal Boulevard underpass, which, you know, accumulates water very quickly. We saw a car get stuck there just today. Eleanor Tabone is in our mobile forecast center, and she is the one who is manning that station right there. Eleanor, many people out and about where you are?
Katie, we are seeing a few bystanders coming out and looking at this flood water here, but as you can see, it's started to recede here. You can now see that 5 feet. You can see the number 5 on the marker there. When we first got out here around 3:30, that was completely covered. So you can slowly start seeing that water recede. You can also see more of the car that was submerged. When we got out here again, you could just see the roof of it. Now we're starting to see more of that car. You're also seeing more debris that's been left over outside of the cars here. You're starting to see all that being washed up onto the roadway here. But again, there is just so much water that's just sitting here. It's still obviously impassable right now, but we are seeing people coming out and taking pictures of this flood water. But again, like you mentioned, Katie, this bypass, or this underpass, sorry, does flood constantly when we do have weather events such as this. But again, you can see the water receding. You can see that the marker now, which, as I mentioned, around 3:30, that was entirely covered. So you can see the water here at Canal Boulevard starting to recede. Katie?
Hopefully, let's hope that that goes down quickly. It looks like it is finally making some progress out there. Again, the only station that was having difficulty, according to the Sewage and Water Board, was that one that is on I-610. It had I-10 shut down basically for quite a while this afternoon, around 1 o'clock. That's when there was so much water that had accumulated on I-10 that you just could not pass. They had police officers out there. You could see those blue lights in the distance if you were out and about on I-10, and you just couldn't get through. So it was a dangerous situation.
Well, that's why they preach the importance of making sure you clear out those catch basins, make sure you get rid of any debris. We've known that this rain was coming for some time now. A local weather expert said that we would have showers and storms that would be coming in the coming days. It's a blessing because we've been dealing with 100-degree temperatures, high 90s. So it's bringing our temperature down. But of course, when it comes down by this much and this quickly, obviously we are the city that is known for flooding very quickly in any amount of rain, and any amount of rain we've gotten today has definitely caused major flooding in some areas.
Yeah, and let's talk quickly about how much rain we saw. Some areas, this is Central City, where we were out and about earlier today. You can see this gentleman walking up to his knees in water, cars flooded out. Just going to be a total loss from this afternoon rainstorm. I mean, this is, as I mentioned, we plan for hurricanes for days and weeks, and yet this happens on a Monday afternoon, and this is what we're left to deal with. So it is training in some ways because we know how to deal with it, but at least those of us who are new to the area. But this is, you know, in Simon Bolivar, which is in Central City.
Yeah, but what's frustrating for a lot of us is the fact that we have to deal with it in the first place. I mean, on a regular day or hurricane, you know that there's a certain amount of rain you're going to get, and it's going to get several inches in the city. But this is just an everyday day, I would like to call end of summer storm.
Yes.
That's one that we desperately needed because we, of course, are still dealing with a statewide burn ban. So having any amount of rain in our city is going to be a blessing. But when you get it this fast again, and you get this many inches as fast as we did, you get what you see on your screen right now, flooding that is all over the city. And a lot of people are still questioning Sewage and Water Board when it comes to why those floodwaters overcome or overtake the roads so quickly and sidewalks so quickly. Just imagine having to drive through this every day.
Yeah, this is in Gentilly. This was this afternoon. Obviously, the drainage system overwhelmed when it starts pumping backwards like that, when you see water coming out of the storm drains. And so this area, you can see on the wheel wells of the tires. That's a really great gauge of how to tell how much water's on the street, is to look at the height of the water on the wheel wells of the tires. And so you can see several inches of rain just standing there on this part of Gentilly. Looks like lots of things underwater in that area as the pumps really struggle to keep up. Now, one of the pump stations from the Sewage and Water Board this afternoon says that 4.2 inches of rain is how much rain they got in that area of Gentilly. The rain intensity for measurement from the Sewage and Water Board was 2.2 inches per hour. So that's a lot of rain in a short period of time.
I mean, and look what you have on your roadways right now. This is why they try to tell everyone to stay off the roadways when you have this sort of rain, or try not to go through street flooding. I can't say exactly what happened here. I don't know if this person just didn't see if this was the roadway maybe had a pothole in it, or what could have happened there. But this is a situation you don't want to get caught up in.
Yeah, that may have been a parked car. You know, people either went somewhere for the Labor Day holiday and then they come home and their cars are flooded out on the street. And unfortunately, that's something that people have to deal with regularly. Look at that. That's that car underneath the underpass right there. Another one that got stalled out this afternoon. Again, this is in Gentilly. This is fresh video that we're seeing from earlier this afternoon when the rain had just eased up slightly. Now, another area, this is Slidell. Slidell on the North Shore, obviously not dealing with a pumping situation like we do here on the South Shore, but parts of Slidell that tend to flood did see a tremendous amount of rain in a short period of time. So places like Old Spanish Trail that you're seeing there, Gauze Boulevard in Slidell, which tends to flood regularly whenever we see intense, heavy storms like the one we saw this afternoon. So many people out there trying to get through the roads, and look at that. It looks like a river behind them on Old Spanish Trail.
And all of this is video that we have from our team that are across the metro area and beyond, and also some of our viewer pictures and videos that you have sent to us. Make sure you keep sending them in. We, of course, will continue to follow along with this. Chris Franklin joining us now. Chris, we saw the forecast, and it has so much rain that's planned for each day. Well, we thought it was around 30%, 40%. You know, do we think that we're going to get another surprise rain like this tomorrow or the rest of the week?
No, our pattern is going to start shifting, which we'll talk about in a moment. It always looked like we had really been mentioning this since last week, that the Labor Day weekend would be wetter, to try and figure out exactly if anything else, or when or where you're going to get these type of little boundaries that set up that can give you these high intense rainfall rates and then just sit is near impossible. Our computer models are only so good. What we can look at is the overall pattern that had called for better rain chances, so we kept those rain chances on the high side. Coverage wise today, not everyone even saw rainfall, and it just happened that we had kind of a boundary set up basically where we still have this street flood advisory in place from Slidell into the metro area, and even had set up into the river parishes, though the intensity there wasn't quite as high, nor did the rainfall last nearly as long. Now we've got kind of a boundary that is set up for Morgan City through the Atchafalaya Basin just to the west of Baton Rouge. So what we have had over us earlier is now ending. Just about all of the rain is gone over the metro area, aside from maybe a little light drizzle here and there. Still have some showers south of the city toward the coast. What we had around Jean Lafitte as it moved northward was weakening, so we would likely see most of these showers start to weaken as well as they push northward. And the rest of this evening and tonight, we will see us settling down. Maybe an isolated shower or two, but nothing like we saw earlier in the day. Had almost 5 inches of rainfall at Slidell, and most of that was in a short period of time. Had 2.68 inches at Lakefront. Now, what you see on underneath the official rainfall totals is radar estimates of some of the rainfall totals. And when we had that bullseye set up just to the north of City Park toward the lakefront, the estimates were about 6 to 7+ inches of rain fell. Well, we can confirm that because actual totals at some of the pumping stations around the city confirm that City Park total of over 7 inches of rainfall. Much of the metro area, not just the city, but surrounding areas as well, saw rainfall totals generally within the 2 to 3, 4 inches, and then the heart of the city, mid-city towards City Park, saw some of the highest of those totals, and out toward the lakefront, over 5 inches of rainfall there. Thankfully, this is winding down. Our computer model indicating kind of that activity out to our west over the Atchafalaya Basin, continuing past 6 o'clock and then settling down after 8, 9 o'clock, and the rest of the night tonight and into the overnight will be much quieter. As we head into the day on Tuesday, folks getting back to school and work, much drier. We'll keep the mention of some spotty rain chances in the forecast during midday and early afternoon, although even some showers tomorrow morning are possible. The rain coverage is not going to be what we saw during the day today. As far as the intensity goes, those are just sometimes almost impossible. Really, we've said this many years, and this is going beyond just what we had seen in 2017 with that seemingly surprise summertime thunderstorm. Our atmosphere is completely primed in the summertime for these heavy rain events. So anytime we see the potential of rainfall, especially in the summer months, there is always that possibility of these heavy downpours. This is that same intersection on Canal Boulevard where we have Eleanor Tabone. Last time we showed you this, what was it, about 15 minutes ago, it was at 5 feet. So they're now down to 4 feet, and we see more of our car, which had been completely submerged right about the top of the hour. So we've already seen that water level in, say, 15 minutes come down by about a foot. And so hopefully before 6 o'clock, I would say, maybe even 5:30 within the hour or so, we should see most, if not all of that water completely cleared of that intersection, as you see a few folks kind of taking pictures of that submerged, almost revealed car now as the water levels are starting to recede a bit there. What's also helping out is the fact that we are done with the rainfall, so pumping can kind of go to full capacity now, as we're starting to see some improving conditions across other parts of the city. And this is just one of the interchanges that we saw flooded earlier in the afternoon. One of the others was at West End on I-610. That had gone underwater. That cleared much faster, but still was a problem and a traffic hazard earlier in the day, or earlier in the afternoon. If there is any silver lining, and something Katie had mentioned too, is the fact that it is Labor Day, so you don't have at this hour the folks now at nearing rush hour hitting the roadway. So hopefully a lot of folks had just stayed home today. And if you had outdoor plans, once that rainfall kind of got started midday and early afternoon, I know, including my own family, kind of canceled any outdoor plans just because of the rainfall. And hopefully that is what kept a lot of the folks off the roads as well. Next several days, we're actually going to be heating up and drying out, and we'll have a more detailed look at that forecast coming up a little bit later.
Yeah, thank goodness it is starting to dry out there. We saw the young man who had his car stalled at that intersection and completely submerged in the water at that underpass, taking pictures of it behind Chris just a little while ago. So
I was just scrolling through, and some of our reporters, McPherris, Eleanor Tabone, are out there. Paul Murphy is actually following up with some of the rain totals, especially when it comes to pump station number 7. Is it the right?
Yes.
Am I right? It's a lot of the video. It's pretty similar across the city. A lot of cars that have been stalled. This is why we tell people, I know it's very cliche, turn around, don't drown. You have to clear out those catch basins. But also, we showed you Eleanor Tabone's live report a couple of minutes ago, and it was at what, 5 inches of rain, or 5 feet of rain? 5 feet of rain, already down to 4 or 3 inches, so draining fairly quickly.
Yeah, it's gone down about a foot in the last 15 minutes or so. So like Chris mentioned, hopefully it'll continue. Now, one area that we did see a tremendous amount of rain is that section of Lakeview. They got 7 inches of rain in just about 2 hours this afternoon. So that is a huge amount of rainfall. And this is some new video that you haven't seen before. There's that car, and you can see the drainage system just overwhelmed with water because of how heavy it was coming down and how quickly it was coming down. I've been seeing posts on Facebook of everyone in that area questioning whether or not the pumps were on this afternoon. The Sewerage and Water Board sent out a statement a little while ago saying the pumps were on, the pumps were working. That right there, what you're seeing, is an indicator that the system was overwhelmed because of how fast the water was coming down.
Oh, there it is.
People kayaking happens every time we see this, but so Sewerage and Water Board saying that the pumps were on. It just was raining too fast, too hard. And Joe DeRusso, the city councilman from New Orleans in that area, mentioned live on the air a little while ago that we're going to find out in detail in the next couple of days exactly what happened. And the Sewerage and Water Board saying that they, of course, are going to do an after-action report to figure out exactly what happened. If it was just too much rain, if there were problems like they have already identified for that pump station near I-610 on the interstate that had its pumps tripping off. They said that they managed to get them back on, but they were off and on for a little while, which allowed the water to back up.
All right, so right now, of course, we've been following this tremendous rainfall that came down very hard, very quickly across all parts of the city. If you have any pictures or videos, you can send them in to us, 504-529-4444. We've been sharing your pictures on social media and also right here on air. And a lot of you are showing us sort of the same imagery where we see a lot of you driving through flooded streets. Some of those cars, that rainwater rising on top where you only see the rooftops of some cars. You have some people who have been, cars have stalled, and some people who have been stuck in holes that have possibly been out. I think the best case scenario for a lot of people here is there weren't a lot of people at work because obviously we are still laboring, but today is Labor Day.
Yeah, unfortunately we did hear though from Lily Cummings in Mid-City, some of the areas that tend to flood when we see this type of rain event. A business over there flooded once again, only a couple of inches this time, and the business owners seem to indicate that that would be manageable, unlike the 2017 floods where they had a foot of water in their business. So at least it's only a little bit of rain, but a little bit of rain, as we know, can do a tremendous amount of damage to sheetrock and all of those things. So.
All right. Well, I'm curious to know what it looks like at Broad and Orleans. I know in that particular area, I've covered that area for the last couple of years, and every time it rains in that area, it seems like the businesses always tend to flood out, including the Zulu Club in that area. They always tend to get water inside of their businesses, which is obviously very costly to fix whenever that happens.
Absolutely. I think they got over 5 inches of rain in those 2 hours. And so Lily was on Bank Street giving us an update there. That is very close to the section of the city that you're talking about. But that swath of New Orleans is a chronic flooding location. And we've seen that time and time again, unfortunately, for the homeowners and businesses there. Unfortunately, today, you know, one wasn't spared. And we'll have to see as Lily continues to report for us this afternoon whether or not some more businesses in that area were affected.
All right. I think that we're going to take a look. Oh, Meg Ferris is actually joining us right now. I don't know if Meg Ferris is available. Meg, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you see me?
Yes,
I can hear you.
Can you see me? We can see you. You're live right now.
Okay, good. Yeah, you know, fast moving things out here in the field. So we're on that street around Chappelle and Argonne, and now it's a hot, humid, sunny day. You can see behind me the streets are still flooded. Oh, look, you can catch a car right now trying to go down the street. So it doesn't seem like it's draining very fast, but I do see a few signs of it draining. Now, earlier today, we were out in Gentilly. I want you to see some of the video that was shot in Gentilly, because they were having a difficult time as well. And photographer Rick Nice-Riggins and I turned the corner on Harrison off of St. Bernard, and we saw a car that looked like it was trying to go on the neutral ground, but it was completely tilted, and the back end was sticking up, and it was flooded out. There was no one in the car. The door was open, and we finally saw the owner who lived in that area come by and start taking his things out of the car, and we were concerned about what happened, and here's what he had to say, what happened to him when he was driving.
I was coming down St. Bernard, made a left on the Harrison, and like the current just pulled me over to the left, and my car just sank in the middle of the earth, like it's nosedive. Like my back wheels is up off the ground. I don't know what happened. They say it's a big old hole that they filled up with sand. I don't know.
Oh, and the sand maybe washed away and you fell in?
Yeah, that's exactly what had to happen. I never noticed it. I live right here, but I never noticed it. And it's been out there about 2 hours now.
Okay. And your car's all wet?
Yeah, the car is flooded completely on the inside. It's total.
So what a mess for so many people who are now going to have to be doing insurance claims and that type of thing. But that's what people tell us. Sometimes, you're sitting at home and you're dry and you look at it and you say, well, why did that person maneuver that way? But sometimes it just happens so quickly. the street looks fine, like you can pass, but the current or something washes you away like that. So we saw a lot of people like that, and we're going to have much more coming up at 5. Back to you, ladies.
Meg, look behind you. You have some people actually, it seems like they're walking out in the middle of those flood waters.
Oh, yeah. Can you see that? Yeah. That's that little boy. You can see how deep it still is. And this is where Councilman Giarrusso walked toward us earlier, and it was way up mid-thighs. So he had on boots that were kind of right under his knees, so it didn't do any good. I'm sure the water was getting right in it. But yeah, you can see people finally coming out because the sun is out. It's hot. And blue skies and white clouds now.
It gives you an idea of just how deep the water is. It actually, he's so little, it's almost up to his waist right there.
Yeah, and his mom obviously up to her knees as she's walking around. A cute little wave and a smile from them as they're exploring the streets, because they really can't do anything else at this point because they're kind of stuck in their houses. You clearly can't get a car through that very easily, especially if you just have a car. So Meg, we thank you for reporting for us. She's been bringing us lots of great stuff this afternoon.
Yes, she has. And as she just mentioned, of course, this blue skies, this rain has gone away, so we should see that water start to drain down even more. Chris Franklin joining us now, Chief Meteorologist. You told us about this all last week, that we would expect some rain this week, but I didn't know if we were going to get it that much.
No, and you know what? That's impossible to figure out. We can tell you about storm chances. We can tell you if there is the potential for some heavy rainfall. Honestly, with our pretty much primed atmosphere with high humidity levels, a lot of moisture available, any summertime thunderstorm, we really have not seen many this summertime because of the pattern, but anytime we get some summertime thunderstorms we've seen in the past, we can get these downpours. But to tell you exactly where one of these downpours or multiple downpours will set up is near impossible. Sunshine finally starting to come up, but now it's just adding to the stickiness across the area. Had some storms that developed. This is going back in time to 9 a.m. We were dry over the city, and we started to see some shower development there. Started to get a bit more intense over Slidell. Had almost 5 inches of rainfall accumulated there, and a boundary set up basically from Slidell over the metro area down toward the river parishes. That is when we really got into the heavier rainfall around the noon hour in the city, and it just continued. We saw this boundary set up and just keep firing up rain over the same locations. The rainfall rates were somewhat manageable had the rain moved. 2+ inches of rain per hour, that's pretty common for what we tend to see in the summertime, but the fact that they just did not stop is the issue, and that training event is when it's near impossible to forecast. Boundary finally started to sink a little bit more to the south, and most of the activity began winding down at about 4 o'clock, and here we are at almost 5 o'clock, and the rainfall is gone. You might have a few little passing sprinkles here and there, but the intense storms and the greater coverage of rainfall is now done. May have a little bit more of a focus out to our west over the course of the next couple of hours, but for southeast Louisiana, or at least our viewing area, pretty much done with the rainfall through the evening and night. A few more showers are possible early tomorrow morning and into the midday. Rain coverage tomorrow expected to be at around 30, maybe 40%. So far less rain coverage, but a few downpours are certainly possible. Look at the totals that we did see, and it verified with that almost 5 inches of rainfall at Slidell. And as I said, had that bullseye over parts of the city that we were able to verify with actual totals of over 7 inches of rainfall at City Park. And it was really within this little corridor from Lakeview, Mid-City, City Park, and toward the lakefront that we had some of the highest totals, 5, 6, 7+ inches of rainfall. Radar estimates some of those kind of missing data locations, but when we can actually verify that, it's good information for the computer models. Temperatures had been in the 70s and 80s with the rainfall. Now with the sun starting to come back out, we're starting to see more lower to mid 80s. Rain is wrapping up through the rest of this evening and tonight, and a much drier stretch of weather ahead. We'll talk more about that and looking ahead to the weekend, which might bring in more rain in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Chris. And of course, we've been covering this storm event for you throughout the afternoon. We're going to have much more coverage for you in just a little bit.
All right, of course, we'll have more video, and if you have any video, any pictures, send them to 504-529-4444. Make sure you download the WWL-TV app for all of the information you need.
WWL-TV's Eyewitness News begins with breaking news.
All right, so today's downpour caught drivers off guard, and many cars were abandoned in high water. Others took a gamble, made it through flooded streets, like you see right here on Simon Boulevard and Callio Street.
The water got so high that I-10 was shut down. It was shut down for a little while this afternoon. That is because they had so much water there. Cars were stopped on each side of the underpass. Look at this. That was at Metairie Road right around lunchtime. The Sewerage and Water Board says it looks like 2 pumps at the station, the pumping station there on I-10, tripped offline. An operator was able to get those pumps back online, and the roadway was clear again in less than half an hour. Sewerage and Water Board says that's the only issue that they're aware of happening today. And with turbines 4 and 5 both online, they had more than enough power to operate the pumps.
Now the water rose quickly. We've been mentioning this after heavy downpours in Slidell today as well. This video was taken along Old Spanish Trail. Looks like a few drivers got stranded after trying to make it through the high water. Other problem spots in Slidell include Gauze Boulevard, with rainfall estimates above 6 inches in many areas.
Now, after weeks of drought and record heat, the storms return with a vengeance this afternoon.
I would just mention that issue with the pumps along I-10, but many neighborhoods saw high water as the rain came down so heavily, with near record rainfall as that storm lingered. Meg Fair is joining us now. She's kicking off our team coverage of the flooding. She was at another really problematic underpass where a driver lost their car.
That's right, Cherise. So we're here in Lakeview now, where we've been all day, where there's been lots of rain and flooded streets you couldn't get through, cars that were stranded, cars that were trying to go to the neutral ground but didn't help in many cases. You can see this street off of Argonne and Chappelle is still very, very high water that you can't drive through. In fact, a lady just walked by who parked a whole block away and was trying to walk to her house because there was no way she was driving to it. But as you mentioned just a little while ago, I want you to take a look at this video from earlier today. This was, I would say, a little bit afternoon, where underneath that railroad trestle on Canal Boulevard, we know that floods there a lot. You couldn't even see the marker for how deep the water is, and it got deep very, very fast. And what happened was there was a young man who goes to school at Delgado. He plays baseball for the team. He graduated from Brother Martin. And he saw another car go through, and he got stranded. Later, his friends came to try to rescue him and rescue whoever it was in the car, and didn't realize it was their friend, their teammate, who had gotten out. Fire department came, and we told him he was out safely. Now, we talked to this young man named Andrew earlier.
I saw a car go through under the tunnel, and then I thought I could make it. And then next thing you know, the water started coming from everywhere. And I had my front tires out, and then my car shut off. And then I put my car in neutral and tried pushing it off. And then the water just filled the car too fast. And I couldn't push it up anymore. It just got too heavy.
How did you get out? Was the door easy to open, or were you fighting pressure?
No, I was fighting pressure to get out. I had to push really hard. I had to use my legs to get out, actually. And then, I mean, I ripped my socks trying to push the car up the hill with the water, but it was just too heavy.
And Andrew showed us his glove, his mitt that weighed about 30 pounds. It was so weighted with water. His laptop from school is gone. Electronics and water, as you know. His phone, he was trying to restart that. But the other things we saw, we saw a couple, their name's Ellis, their last name's Ellis, a husband and wife who had gone out to rescue their grandson who was stranded. And then they decided not to go home. They decided to use their truck, which was built high off the ground, to go help other people. Here they are.
We decided to get in the truck. He's seen a lot of people that were stranded, so we decided to get out here and try to help people.
How many people have you helped?
About 3 so far.
So here it is, it's raining, it's miserable. Yeah. Your own son had problems, and it's lightning, and y'all are out. Why are you out here just going to help people when you could be at home?
Because these our people. We from New Orleans, so, I mean, these our people.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do.
That's what we do. People never cease to amaze me. It was their grandson who they helped. And here they were. It was raining. Lightning was popping everywhere. And they were out trying to rescue people. So That's what we do in New Orleans. Reporting live from Lakeview, Meg Farris, Eyewitness News.
Meg, you always seem to find the best of people in New Orleans. Thank you so much. Well, just within the last hour, Meg caught up with City Council member Joe Giarrusso, who represents the Lakeview area. The Sewage and Water Board says parts of Lakeview got more than 7 inches of rain this afternoon in just the last few hours.
Nobody suspected that there was going to be 7.5, almost 8 inches of rain in this short a period of time. Obviously, as you started off by saying, that amount is something that's really hard to prepare for, but also we're in the middle of hurricane season, and I know sometimes around holidays it's easy to get a little bit more lax in what's happening, but the big thing for us that's going to be important is after this to make sure what happened and have that analysis.
We've been checking through the reports of street flooding all afternoon. Check it out. This is a live feed from our mobile forecast center. It is at least water going down.
You're looking at the train trestle. That's where drivers got stranded in the high water. The water is still very high there, but it's been going down pretty quickly. It was at 5 feet, and it looks like maybe 3 to 2 feet now. Now, this is often really one of the first spots to go under when it rains. Thanks to our photographer, it looks like right below 3 feet, so just getting to 2 feet. It can be slow to drain in this area.
Yeah, parts of Mid-City also saw the water rise really quickly this afternoon.
Now, that's another neighborhood with a Sewage and Water Board. It does confirm a rainfall total of over 5 inches. A short amount of time. That is a lot of rain. Lily Cummings joining us now live with an update. Lily, what have you seen so far?
Hey, Charisse. Well, we've been out here since about 2 this afternoon, and I'm happy to report it's a much different, much better picture. A lot of the water has receded, but if you look behind me here, we're standing on banks in South Alexander, where you're looking at South Alexander, where some of these neighborhood streets took on a lot of water. There's a tow truck down there picking up a car. That is the second tow truck that we've seen in this area where folks, got stuck, got stalled, and weren't able to drive through. Now, if we spin around and look at Bank Street, I want to show you all, there is still some water remaining here on Banks, and we've seen a lot of lower cars not be able to make it through. They're playing it safe, backing up, and taking a different route. Now, I will say that on down Bank Street, there was a restaurant that took on some water. Take a look inside of that restaurant. The owner got a call from employees around 1:30 this afternoon saying the restaurant was flooding. The owner of Wake and Bacon estimates the kitchen has about 3 to 4 inches of water inside. He says, though, he's seen worse. In 2017, an afternoon storm flooded the entire restaurant. When he got here around 2, he made sure staff were taken care of and, in New Orleans fashion, treated them to a few beers while they waited on this water to recede.
Hopefully we can get it cleaned up. We're closed on Tuesdays, so we'll be ripping and rolling on Wednesday.
Well, again, while we've been out here, we've seen a lot of things. We've seen cars get stuck and stalled. We've even seen people kayaking down Bank Street right here. So a lot of things have been going on, but very happy to report again, Charisse, that things are looking much better than they were just an hour ago. Reporting live in Mid-City, Lily Cummings, Eyewitness News.
That is certainly a relief, but now they're having to dry out and deal with the impacts of this rainstorm this afternoon. Thank you, Lily. Now we'll take a look live at the Metairie Road underpass on I-10, and you can see traffic is moving carefully at this hour.
Talk about things moving quickly and changing in a short amount of time. Cars were stopped in both directions for about half an hour just after 1 this afternoon due to that high water on the interstate. Let's check in with your local weather expert, Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin, with the latest on the rainfall totals plus what to expect throughout the rest of this evening. Should we stay inside or what?
No, you might as well just stay inside, but we're finally now waterlogged. We will finally see a stretch of dry weather, not only for just this evening, but looking ahead to the rest of the week. Going back in time real quick, 9 a.m. really had nothing around the city. Started to see some of the heavier showers developing, but they were moving. It wasn't really until just about the noon hour that we started to see kind of this boundary setting up from Slidell. Now, at that point, Slidell had already seen several inches of rain, but then they really started to fire up, and that was the boundary where the rain kept developing along and would not let up. So the showers weren't really moving. The rain themselves were moving toward the northwest, but they kept building upon themselves, and that is the training effect, where the rain doesn't go anywhere. And exactly where some of those heavier bands set up was right over where the heavier cells had set up, was right over the heart of the city, and really didn't see that end until about 4 o'clock. So from solidly noon until 4 had some very heavy rainfall rates. Thankfully, as we update radar, that has now come to an end. Still some showers down along the coastline, but as they move northward, they do tend to weaken. A little bit more activity along the Atchafalaya Basin, but even that is starting to show signs of winding down. Rest of the evening, this evening and tonight will be drier. Some of the official rainfall totals almost 5 inches at Slidell, and yet Kenner only picked up about 4/10 of an inch. A little bullseye right over parts of the city. That's 6 to 7+ inches of rainfall, and we can confirm that from a number of the observing stations in the metro area. A drier stretch of weather, but hotter stretch of weather coming up for the rest of this week, and maybe a cold front on the way by this weekend. More on that and a check of the tropics in just a few minutes.
Chris, thanks. We'll have continuing coverage of the impact of the severe storms today, with more coming up tonight on the Eyewitness News. You can also find updates on our website, our free smartphone app, as well as our social media pages.
Now, before today's heavy rains, a number of families visited the closed Lincoln Beach site in New Orleans East for Labor Day.
Now, this despite an alligator attack last week that sent a child to the hospital. Paul Murphy reports how the city is warning the beach isn't safe and people should stay away for now.
Carlos Aguilar and his family unloaded their van next to the seawall across from the shuttered Lincoln Beach in New Orleans East. They made the trek across the railroad tracks and through the woods to spend Labor Day along the shores of Lake Pontchartrain.
Yeah, it's looking good in Lincoln Beach.
Just last Wednesday, another family set out to enjoy a day at the same beach when suddenly an alligator attacked. According to New Orleans EMS, paramedics responded to a report of an alligator bite at Lincoln Beach. They rushed a youngster to a children's trauma center with injuries. EMS did not release the child's condition, age, or gender.
You're going to be out there all day?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So it's not the alligator's not going to scare you away, huh?
No. No.
Giselle Mejia was also at Lincoln Beach with her family. She hadn't heard about the alligator attack.
Haven't heard nothing about it, but it sounds like a little dangerous. So it's kind of scary. That's all I can say.
One man who lives near the beach told us off camera he often sees alligators in the water there.
I would see alligator in the evening time over there on that end, kind of swim into his little hole over there, and every evening, yeah, about 12-footer.
He says the gator doesn't appear to be afraid of people.
The alligator's too friendly. Oh, it's yeah, people feed them and stuff.
After the alligator attack, the city released a statement reminding people that Lincoln Beach is a closed beach, and while the city works to actively redevelop the site because of the safety hazards here, it's best to steer clear of the area. Monday, despite the danger, there were small children back in the water at Lincoln Beach. Parents told us they would keep an eye open for alligators. Paul Murphy, Eyewitness News.
Oh, today we're tracking the impact of some strong showers with flooding reported across the area.
Coming up, we'll have another update from you from our local weather experts. That's coming up right after the break.
Witness the future of Louisiana.